Ring ring, it's time for another episode of Crossplay Conversations, the show where we dive deep into the world of video games while keeping it light. I'm your host, Luke Lewis, and today I'm joined by the sneaker savant, Joseph Hooper.
What up, everybody?
And rounding out our trio, a man who knows how to get out of bed in the morning, it's Jacob McCourt.
Hi, I bought Alarmo, and this is not a podcast for Alarmo, but I don't spend my money.
That Nintendo made.
It sure is. They're an alarm company now, and I haven't unboxed it yet, but I'm sure it's going to be miserable. But I guess I'll share on a future podcast what Alarmo is all about.
That's an $100 item right there that he was holding.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to hear your review, but the specific aspect of like it makes coin sounds or other sounds when you like move around in your bed. That's like, yep. I have questions. I have concerns. Interested to hear your thoughts.
I mean, the craziest part of the whole thing was you needed to be a Nintendo Online member. So I bought this at Nintendo New York because that's where I was, and that you needed to prove that you were a Nintendo Online member to even buy it in the store.
Oh God, that's crazy.
That is wild. And what's also wild is the fact that we're not here to talk about just alarm clocks today. We are unpacking the Game Awards 2024. We're doing a quick mini episode today discussing the awards, highlighting some of our favorite announcements, overall winners, all that good stuff. And then if you're listening to this on day of release, later this week, we'll be unpacking the Indie Game Awards and our thoughts there, including our reactions to the winners, some little behind the scenes on being judges, and also we'll highlight some of our impressions playing a lot of the nominees for that one. So that'll be coming later this week. But today we're talking TGAs, y'all. Joseph, I'd love to kick things off with just your overall thoughts on the show. If you had a favorite announcement, but just kind of general vibes, how'd you feel?
Best Game Awards ever. It was hype. Jeff Keighley absolutely killed it. Responded to all the criticism, both, on a technical level, on like a, emotional level in terms of like what people wanted to see, in terms of like, honoring the devs and the people working in the industry. Game wise, absolute insanity. Me getting the Witcher 4 trailer was like, I can't believe this is real. I can't believe my life. What did I do to deserve this? This is amazing. And I mean, there were a lot of other crazy announcements in there as well. Like obviously rematch Sifu Soccer, which was in the pre-show. And we're like, what are we doing? This is insane. We're already starting off on a high. And the fact that we get Borderlands 4, and that's like one of the lowest things. You tell me that 10 years ago, I'm like, what do you mean? How packed could it be? So yeah, absolutely incredible. I honestly don't know how or when or if this will ever be able to be topped by Jeff in terms of a game. I think the stars just all aligned for this to be just like an incredible show, plus this being the 10th anniversary and everything, plus the first Game Awards game changer. I mean, like, I don't know if you can do it better than this, to be honest. So 10 out of 10, honestly, 10 out of 10 for me.
Love it.
How about for you, Jacob?
I'm in the same boat. This is an A+ show. This is the best show he's done. We've said he responded to a lot of the criticisms, even used Muppets to essentially say some of the things that like he couldn't say, which I think was like a really genius way to get around that and like essentially be like, here's the criticism. I will not say it, but these Muppets will say it. The thing I don't think Jeff gets enough credit for as well is how he has now built a show around the shows where, Wholesome Snack and other showcases are propped up around the Game Awards, Day of the Devs. And so even if there's not enough even indie representation in the show, you can get indie announcements outside of the show itself. I mean, even in Wholesome Snack and a Day of the Devs, there was stuff that traditionally would probably be in the pre-show that I loved. Getting Toem 2, getting Duck Detective 2 is stuff that might be in the pre-show before, but we got it before the show. So just the whole Game Awards season, if you will, was the best ever. And even like an announcement that would be an A announcement in SGF or a former TGA was like a B announcement in this show, which is crazy. Stuff that we'll just forget, like, hey, an Okami sequel is coming. That stuff gets lost in the banger announcements above that on the line. So yeah, I have no complaints about this show.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think the pace started off strong with Witcher 4 and then pretty much didn't let up. Things tend to dip in the middle when you get games that are just not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine, but it ended strong. And I have to say it, of getting Intergalactic with Naughty Dog blew my fucking mind. I don't swear a lot on this show, but I was losing my mind. I cried. Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross also doing the score. Are you kidding me? This trailer looks so sick. I was telling Joseph before we started recording that the fact that we got Elden Ring as the second announcement of the night set the bar for me of like, what the hell is closing this show if Jeff just put Elden Ring in the second slot? Like, nuts. Absolutely nuts. But yeah,
arguably
really
in like
enjoyed
the
it.
third largest spot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just insane. But yeah, that's like top level. But do y'all want to get into some specific announcements that you want to chat about?
Sure. I mean, like I already said, The Witcher 4 was probably my favorite announcement. I know we probably won't see this game for at minimum, another 2 years, probably most likely, probably in the range of 3 to 4 years to be realistic. But to kind of see that set up with Ciri, for people who played like The Witcher 3, you guys know Ciri, and like seeing that set up and like just the tone that they set, I thought was perfect. Of course, cinematic trailers aren't, indicative of the final product, but I think especially with CD Projekt Red and how Cyberpunk launched and everything, but the original Witcher 3 also had the same vibe and totally hit that tone with their first cinematic trailer. So very excited for this. And very quickly, Elden Ring, not gonna lie, a little bit of a bait and switch, because after the game came out and after it was announced and we learned all the details, it's more of like a multiplayer co-op battle royale roguelike type thing, which I'm not personally that excited for, but I will give Jeff credit for having the announcement in the moment. And I feel like that's nothing against Jeff, because that was a sick announcement and nobody knew what was going on. And it was still, all the impact is still there from that announcement. But I don't know if I'll actually end up playing and loving this, because I'm more of a lore exploration type person. And I don't know if this game is really expanding the lore at all or anything like that.
Cool as hell key art, though. Very cool.
Very true. Very true.
And I think, like you said, the caliber of announcement with that one, whether it's your cup of tea or not, is like nuts to then couple it with all these other things that we saw.
Yeah.
I have a trio of things I'll really quickly cover.
Sure.
Split Fiction, which is a new game from Joseph Fares and Hazelight. He's making another one of the games that he makes, and so my partner Jess and I saw it and said, we're going to play that video game. And I would imagine that's going to be what a lot of y'all are going to do too. I think it said 2025 on the actual
March
video,
6th.
but then he said a date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's dated, which is
that's
real
tomorrow.
Cool. Basically, yeah, at this point. I also thought the setup was really interesting. I was watching with my partner Claire, and she is a writer of fiction, and so she related very much to this idea of like authors and world building and how they're kind of playing within that like juxtaposed space. But yeah, the trailer looked incredible, honestly. Like seeing the variety and stuff and what they're doing was really dope.
If Hazelight made one of those games every 3 to 4 years, I think for the rest of my life, I'd be very happy.
And anytime we get Joseph Fares up there doing his thing, and he's like, "Cut to my kids," and then his kids are like,
"Yeah, I named the characters after my kids."
It's so
and
funny.
my beautiful wife.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Legend,
sure, great.
Legend shit.
Legend shit for sure. The second game is Outer Worlds 2, which I have said for a long time, like, that's not a game that's going to come out. That's a game that's going to come out. That looks pretty damn good, with a very really cheeky narration in the trailer too.
I just love the vibe of that series and a nice, concise RPG. Like, that's what I want from Obsidian, is just cool, offbeat RPGs. They hit every time.
Even cheeky notes in the trailer of like, we made Fallout 3, New Vegas, ha ha ha, tongue in cheek, which is fantastic. And then the third thing is Project Robot from the team that made Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, and Last Guardian, which is like, hey, are we doing like a Gundam / for a while I was like, is this Evangelion but Eco? And that got me wildly excited.
It has that energy, I would say, but
it does.
And it's been such a long time since we've seen a game from that group. So yeah, another banger announcement of like, whoa, was not expecting to see that tonight at all.
Yeah. And then I did want to call out one other thing, and it was really about the ad load in this show. And I'm probably the only nerd that would, say this, but there seemed to be less ads in the show by minutes an hour than there normally is. And the ones that were in there seemed like way more well integrated and endemic to the show. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Jeff did no ad reads this year.
That's correct.
Sydney Goodman did all the ad reads.
I think it did.
Which I think is like a church and state thing that he did to be like, I am no longer the ads guy.
Yeah, he did a great job at, improving that overall. Yeah.
The balance felt a bit more natural, I would say. It didn't feel like there was this hard cut of like, now we're in ad time. And it was like not totally obvious, I would say, what was a sponsored thing versus what was not, which I think is nice for something like this.
And I think if your biggest controversy coming out of the show is Catley, then I think you're doing all right.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the stuff about Catley?
I
have not.
think so.
It's got ties to like AI, NFT, blockchain gaming stuff.
Yeah.
It looked a little AI. I'm not
that makes sense. I mean, and no shade to mobile games, but anytime that they're like, and the game's coming to mobile, I'm like, that, it's a red flag for me these days.
It's like iPhone? No way.
Not, and it's not always the case, but sometimes it's neither.
How dare you, Blatro? Just kidding.
Blatro, one of the good ones. We know it's out there.
Yep.
I want to shout out real quick. Dispatch. This is from the team that originally made Wolf Among Us, but Aaron Paul, Jeffrey Wright, Laura Bailey leading the voice cast on this one, and you're running a like dispatch call center for a squad of superheroes. Cool vibes. Comedy was on point. I think it's a fun idea from a gameplay perspective, and then coming from a studio that, narratively speaking, I really love. That was a pleasant surprise that I wasn't expecting. And
the voice cast is crazy, even below the line of, Jeffrey Wright and Aaron Paul. Like Jacksepticeye's in it. Alana Pierce is in it. Moist Critical is in it. Yeah, it's got a wild voice cast.
Yeah. Super excited for that one. But that said, I want to double back more to talk about Intergalactic, because that was the announcement for me of the night. I think this is, it's been a question mark for a long time of like, what's that new IP Sony's working on? When this trailer popped, I was so convinced it was Sony Santa Monica's thing, because they've also been rumored, Cory Barlog's team, to be working on a sci-fi project. But yeah, this trailer was really, really cool. I love the idea of Naughty Dog doing a sci-fi thing that's totally different from their previous titles, but has that same Naughty Dog energy in like the environmental storytelling and narrative design and, beautiful motion capture. Also, the little bit of combat we got at the end with the cool laser sword was so dope, and I'm excited for them to do that style of an action game, presumably, after we've had, more traditional gunplay based, realistic, grounded things. Like, what's like this weird space thing that Naughty Dog makes? I'm super, super excited.
Yeah, this one's gonna be sick. Like, just like the little hints. And first of all, like, we saw the character, and I think Jonathan was like, "Oh, like that's," or somebody was like, "That's definitely Naughty Dog," because you could tell by the character model, and you're like, "That kind of looks like a Last of Us character." So we were like, "Oh boy, like what's going on here?" And then like just seeing the random Easter eggs, like Kumail being in like it's like, what are we doing here? Like,
I was like, wait, that's Kumail Nanjiani up there. What?
Yeah. So definitely a lot of good, indicators that we might be cooking. I'm very interested on like how the story is going to go, because obviously Naughty Dog, big story people.
Sure.
And apparently this is like a planet that the character is stranded on that, nobody escapes from. So I'm like, is there going to be a civilization there? Or is there going to be a lot of character interactions? I don't know. But I'm interested to find out. And yes, that like interesting laser, blunt sword or whatever it was looked incredible. I loved it. I'm very excited to see more. Do we think this is coming out like within the next 2 years?
2027.
Okay.
No, absolutely
2027,
not.
boys.
No, dog.
I'm kind of with you on that.
I'm planting my flag. It's one of two times. It's either next holiday or spring 26.
26. Okay.
I
just think about the
guys.
Fall 26 is the earliest.
Hear me out though. Last of Us Part 2 started dev in like 2015, 2016. and shipped in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Like the time, sure, but also this team has been cooking on this since Last of Us Part 2. Like, I
not
think
fully, given the Last of Us multiplayer stuff.
But that was a separate team.
Multiplayer.
Was it a separate team?
Was it?
This game's been in pre-production for quite a while. I'm not like 100%, but I think 2027 is like, I guess what I'm saying is like, I would not be surprised if it came out next holiday. I'm not necessarily like putting my credit card down, betting money on it, but like I could see it. But I think 2026 is a lock.
I'm thinking just like based off of, I mean, 2026 I can for sure see. I think based off of the slate of games that we know PlayStation's been working on, and this being where this is announced in the lineup, I'm like, we still got to get to Wolverine, which we thought was coming out like this year, and we don't even know that it's coming out next year, and we still have Fair Games. So I feel like the queue of big game and Death Stranding and all that stuff, I think the queue is big enough to where I guess fall 2026 or maybe spring, I don't know, could be a good timeline, but then will we really hit it? I don't know.
Okay, I think my evolved prediction after we're talking about it, next 18 months. I think we see it in the next 18 months.
Okay.
All right.
We haven't called out
the same prediction?
More or less, but I put a defined window because I'm not saying back half. I'm saying first half of 26. We see it.
I'll put a soda on that.
I'll put a soda. Okay, great.
I think it's wild also to see how like Tati Gabrielle, because I thought for a little while it was Zoe Zeldana, and then I was watching with my friends Travis and Katie, and Travis was like, "No, that's Tati Gabrielle," which is just wild to see her be sort of the villainess in Uncharted the movie, and then is now being cast for the Last of Us TV show in a smaller role. And then, like most folks would probably know her from season 3 and beyond. But to see her now be like the starring character in a Naughty Dog game is kind of cool, given how she's played around in the Naughty Dog universe in the past couple years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just can't wait for this game. I just want more tidbits. This is one that like I'm so sad we don't have Game Informer anymore for a number of reasons, because I want the like 16-page meaty cover story breaking down things, and like I know we'll get a lot of coverage in this game, but yeah, I'm just excited to see Hallie Gross, I know, who was one of the co-writers on Last of Us Part 2, was working on this one because she posted a photo. She was like wearing it. She was cosplaying as the eye patch character at the Game Awards. And so I'm just excited to see like what the team that made my favorite game of all time is now cooking it up in a completely different genre. So can't say enough hype about it.
Now that Joseph's gone, we can keep talking about the Game Awards just a little more. Luke, you had a couple more things you wanted to cover here?
Yeah, Mafia the Old Country was one that had me super hyped. I'm a huge Mafia fan. I love mobster movies. I love the past games. And I think going back to Sicily is a really cool idea that we haven't seen in the series. Visually, the game looks incredible. So I'm really excited. I love like I'm a nerd in these games for like period piece cars and music and you know, clothing choices and stuff, and just like living in that time period. So I think it looks super, super rad. I think next summer is a really nice time for a new Mafia. So that feels rad. And then I also wanted to just give like a general shout out to like old franchises coming back in a big way at this one, like the new Onimusha, a new Turok game. Like it was just fun to like, wait, is this Turok? Is this Okami? Is this these things? And it was just really fun to be like,
Capcom's cooking.
Nostalgia hits you with like the coolest gut punch, but just like I think everyone had at least one moment where they were like, childhood's back, let's go. Like it was just really nice.
Yeah, my partner Jess really got that way with the new game from Ghost Games, which again was a little disappointed that it wasn't an Overcooked 3. Ghost Town Games is now making a game called Stage Fright, which is being published by Hello Games, which is kind of cool. I saw that, and a thing that folks haven't really talked about. But again, it looks kind of like a co-op split screen. We don't know much about the gameplay, but it is not cooking at the center. Honestly, it reminded me a lot of a Hazelight game, to be honest.
Yeah, it gave me Hazelight vibes, throwing a little bit of Costume Quest humor and tone. I'm excited to see what this studio does with like a more traditional like narrative experience. And I say traditional just in terms of like not a party game, presumably based on what we saw, but yeah, I love a good co-op experience. So the fact that that's more prevalent right now
and then
is
speaking
awesome.
on nostalgia again, I have not watched Final Level. Is that the Amazon video game?
Yeah.
So I guess the Pac-Man episode in that teases a dark Pac-Man game, which we got the trailer for, which is Shadow Labyrinth. I was so confused at what it was until the yellow orb showed up and then became a monster. And I'm like, that's frickin' Pac-Man, which was a very strange, weird moment in the show.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then I think the other big one I wanted to shout out was Helldivers update.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed my time with Helldivers, and they've done a great job of pumping out new content. But man, when it panned to the shot and the vehicles and it gives Halo Warthog energy, I was like, oh my god, I gotta rally the troops. We gotta head back to Super Earth. Adam Gumbert, if you're listening to us, we're going back, buddy.
Even the cheese in like having an actor on stage to like do the thing, I was like, this is the appropriate amount of cheese, and I love it.
The humor in that game is chef's kiss, and they're like fully aware of the vibe. But yeah, it was perfect, and the armor looked so cool. I want that armor.
Yeah. I had one last announcement, and it's a smaller one. Clive in Tekken 8 was kind of cool.
Yeah. That wasn't what I expected, but and hearing Ben Starr's voice anytime is a treat. So it was like, ooh, him in a fighting game is very fun. So
we're in Ben Starr supremacy season beyond between Warframe 1999, his Balatro commercial that came out right before the Game Awards, which was wild and crazy, to announce the Friends of Jimbo third pack, and then in Tekken 8, it's Ben Starr's year every year, I guess.
Love it. Yeah, some really great announcements across the board. I think those are the big ones for me. Anything on the award side that kind of surprised you?
Oh yes, the awards. Yes, I forgot.
No, you're good. On my end, everything kind of felt par for the course. Not in a bad way, but it was just like, yes, that makes sense with all the winners. So some cool shout outs. It was fun seeing Woot up there shouting out Local Thunk for Balatro, or Balatro, as we have since learned.
Yeah, wow, another Canadian supporting Canadian local funk was cool. I guess, so friend of the show, Katie Lesperance, was talking about how she was watching the betting line for the TGAs, because I guess some people, there's a betting system for this.
Oh, as in like sports betting? Like
as in sports betting, but
oh,
TGAs.
Shit, okay.
And she saw the line, essentially it was for a different game, but the day before it went from, another game being the favorite to Astrobot being the favorite. And so really, I don't know if we talked about it in detail, but there were about 4 games in that one where it could be. I mean, Metaphor.
You mean for Goaty itself? Yeah.
Because Metaphor won GameSpot's Game of the Year right before the show. And, Astrobot was dope. We knew there's a huge crowd of folks, especially outside of North America, that were down for Black Myth Wukong. Really, it could have gone to almost any of those games. But Balatro won a ton of Game of the Year, especially in the indie category. So I was really happy to see Team Asobi win it. Recognize Nintendo in the most cheeky, we can't talk about competitors way. So happy for that team.
Yeah, super well deserved. And they got a couple awards throughout the night, which was really nice. But yeah, this was one of those years where it was just like, I'd be happy if basically any of these games won. And that's a nice place to be, I think. We all won. Gamers won.
Gamers won. I don't know how you did on your pizza bet for Lukewarm Games, but I ended up getting 22 out of 29. We didn't do player's voice. That's 30. We did 29 categories and got 22 out of 29. So I did pretty well.
We didn't do any of the esports or creator categories, and I got 17. I beat Claire by 1 point. It all came down to Game of the Year, which was a fun.
Nice.
Yeah, she went with Elden Ring for her Game of the Year prediction, and I went with Astrobot because it once again, it was a total toss up, and I was just like, I feel like it's going to splinter, that the bigger general public portion will have played Astrobot, and worked out. So
yeah, I don't know about you, but when are we going to cut the esports categories? I know I hit on this every single year, but can we just cut them? There's other shows that recognize, not that they don't deserve it, but there are other shows that are dedicated to esports that can do a better job.
Yeah.
At giving the time and the space, where I'm just we don't need these categories.
I think either cut them or change it to best new esports game, best up and coming esports player or something, just so we can recognize some new folks, because it doesn't really move the needle for me to give the award to League of Legends every year. But granted, that's not really my scene, so it's like, sure. But, you know, people out there doing their thing. No shade, but yeah, feels a little out of place.
Celebrities, we talked about a little bit, but it was wild to see Harrison Ford show up.
So cool.
One of my favorite moments was when he was like the prompter, because clearly like he wouldn't come to a rehearsal because he's Harrison friggin' Ford, and the prompter wasn't working, and he was just like, and it was incredible.
Iconic. As if I wasn't more excited to play indie. That whole exchange was great. So good vibes. And I'm really happy people are enjoying that game. So.
And then I was kind of only half watching when this performance came up, but the 21 Pilots performance, I don't know if you've seen this, but on TikTok it's kind of gone a little viral because of the scream that the lead singer Tyler Joseph had was very like Chester Bennington-esque. And so a lot of folks on TikTok are like, yo, almost discovering 21 Pilots for the first time. So it was cool to see that performance being taken out of context of the Game Awards.
Yeah. Nice.
And
that's awesome.
Play outside of the Game Awards.
Yeah, and visually too, on the production level on that one, it was like Jeff and the production team really cooked with like the fog and the lighting and the lasers and the use of the video wall that they did. I was like, oh man, the set looks absolutely incredible.
There's always one performance that kills it, whether it was the God of War performance from Hosier from a couple of years ago, or even like the Arcane Open with Sting that was kind of wild a couple of years ago. Like, I feel like there's always one that they cook on, and that's this one. I mean, we did get Snoop Dogg too, which is freaking crazy.
That was a wild one. I didn't know he formed a game studio with his son, so that's interesting. I'm interested to see what comes of that in future years.
Yeah, agreed. Anything else? I think I'm good.
I think I'm good as well. Good stuff. We'll have a bigger in-depth discussion of the IGAs, but just wanted to touch on some of these announcements because it was like, I think we were originally planning to not do a TGA podcast, but then we were like, man, there were so many interesting announcements that wanted to hop on and chat a little bit about it. So this was fun.
Yeah, so I guess stay tuned for our final episode of the year coming in a couple of days from now about the Indie Game Awards. But yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, we are setting our status to away until next time. But before that, I'm going to ask you to do 3 quick things for us. Give us a follow over on BlueSky. We're at Crossplay Convos. You can send this podcast to a friend because that's how people hear about podcasts. And you can leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice because it really, really does help. And with that, wind down the year, play some indie games. Have a good night, everybody.